Memory Dancing here on WSBC 1240 AM Chicago, WCFJ 1470 Chicago Heights, and we got the man behind that right now in the studio. One of the better songs on an amazing album. Ladies and gentlemen, you can follow him at The Hav, ARS Record on Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome in The Hav. Hav, welcome into the show, buddy.
Thank you, man. It's good to be here, man. It's very good to be here.
Yeah, so you know what? We've been friends since high school, since early in the years.
Oh, yeah, man.
Why don't you tell them a little bit, first of all, how you got the name The Hav?
Well, you know, my real name is Adam Schaudenecker, and there was this one friend of mine named Matt, and he one time looked at one of my haircuts and said, "You know what? You look like a Javier." And as much as I didn't like the name, it stuck. And the next thing I know, teachers and girls and everyone was calling me Javier, and then that got shortened to Javi. And literally, there were people who knew me as Javi and nothing else. And then when I started doing my one-man band, started playing guitar and composing and recording music, then I got the reputation as the Hav. And I'd say the moment where the Hav was solidified was the V show and senior year when I rocked out with, and that was one of the greatest moments of my life. I mean, it was just
you killed it. I mean, it really did become an urban legend in our school at Elk Grove High School that the Hav and the V show, it really became synonymous with each other.
Oh yeah, man. That was. I mean, I was when Mr. Baudelaire called me out in front of the entire cast and crew and said that, and Adam, you know, all the buzz he was getting back at school for all the kids who thought I was not really playing, who thought I was air guitaring and stuff. Mm-hmm. It was just a fun thing. I mean, it even goes back to when I was, you know, watching something like Back to the Future, going, I want to be able to play guitar like Marty McFly, and that was my moment, and it was great. It was just I was on top of the world.
Now, what was the inspiration? I mean, it's not easy to do a project. The project, the Oriole Galaxy, 2013, excuse me, you started this project. Oh yeah. And you've really put I've known you for a long time, and you really have put in your soul and yourself out there for this album. What's the general idea, the inspiration behind it? I mean, beyond just trying to get your talent out there, and what is it behind it, you know?
Oh, well, the Oriole Galaxy 100% was about this new dimension, this new time in which electronic music rules. And 100% what inspired this album was when I first went to my first electronic shows, because I grew up in classic rock, you know, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, and then I started branching out. I got into some 80s and some 90s stuff like Michael Jackson and some really good, easy listening stuff. And then the next thing you know, I morphed into the Beatles, and then pretty much the next thing you know, from there, after I went to the 50s and 40s, I got introduced to new electronic music. And I didn't just jump ship. I didn't become a DJ. I embraced the electronics. And the number one thing that made the Oriole Galaxy possible was now I have synthesizers. For at least 4 or 5 years in my productions, when I started ARS Records back in 2007, never a real synthesizer, strictly just pianos. There wasn't any electronic gimmicks or any electronic gimmickry that pretty much allowed me to do stuff. It was straight real recording. So once I got a synthesizer in my hands, the first piece of music I recorded, I called it Abduction, and that's off of the Oriole Galaxy. And in the story of it, it is an abduction because it takes me from this old school classic rock recording guy into now I got a synthesizer at my disposal and anything is possible, and that's basically the subtext for the Oriole Galaxy.
No, it's amazing to me because we hear all these artists and undergrounders and coming out with new albums and stuff, and a lot of it is very generic or very subpar, where they just kind of went through the motions and they just put this thing together because they have the talent for it, but they didn't put the love, the soul, kind of like the commitment to it. This has been a project that you've been working for a long time, and each story, each song has a story told to it. So how hard is it, first of all, if you're going to lay down, some people will lay down 12 tracks, but you're laying down this whole album and you're consistently telling a different story while trying to maintain a consistent story within the CD.
Exactly. And I don't know, something like that starts, it goes back to me just being the visionary. I mean, one of my number one influences is Walt Disney, and from something like one basic dream of an idea, like I once had an idea, I wanted to do a circus album in which this kid goes off to the circus, and I wanted to tell it, so I did it. Each song was a different character, a different act, so I really got into this mindset where I would come up with this awesome idea, no matter how hard it was. I didn't think about it, working with musicians, I don't think about it, I just think about the end product, and when it came to the Oriole Galaxy, I knew that it was going to be big. I knew it was going to be about a new time. So once I started conceiving a story, I then was able to kind of piece it together with music. It's kind of like, I call it the Oriole Galaxy, a musical story that's out of this world.
Nice.
Strictly because it really does tell a story if you listen to it together, but if you do listen to it separately, you can take it song by song, and there's 30 songs, and every song is a new style, but there's also a purpose behind it. It's not like I just said every song was put in an order for a reason. Certain things happen at certain songs, and even something that happens on the first part of the album is talked about on the second part of the album. So there is one linear thing. It's almost like making a movie without shooting the visual and just having it all audio, but it's told through music. So
now, how much time does that? I've actually been in a few Columbia movies, things like that, where a half an hour mini movie, an independent film, takes 9-10 hours before any type of production. I mean, even when I shoot a show here, an hour show is an hour of production on top of that. So how much time does it take when, again, you're not doing a 12-song album, you're doing a 30-song, and it's just not 30 songs, it's a 30-track story that just so happens to be told in a musical way. I mean, how hard is that time-wise?
It is, it's not necessarily hard. I mean, to some people it could be, but to me, it's the labor of love, So I started it in 2013. The first tracks I did were electronic synthesized tracks because I was all into the new electronic scene. But then as I stopped going to those shows and I kind of was getting more into other bands and stuff and not just electronic music, I then started putting together the other parts of the album because it goes from electronic music. The basic range for the Oriole Galaxy goes from 40s nostalgic jazz with horns all the way to synthesized electronic music of the 2000s and beyond and stuff. And so depending on what song I was working on was a different part of the process, because one of my number one things I love doing now is my collection of session musicians that I work with, and they're all extremely talented. One in particular, Rob Nordley, is amazing on saxophone, and he is one of the very few people who I only met him in Harper through a jazz band, and he is on my channel of creativity. Like what I hear in my head for a saxophone, he can play in the moment, and all I got to do is give him chords, hum some stuff out, and he can do it. And the same goes with the other musicians, and I love doing trumpet. I couldn't get a trombone player for this album. I did a trombone on the last record, but still, just meeting up with those people, however long it takes, and it's not easy doing that because everyone's got a busy schedule. I wish this was checks and balances, and I can have it set up. You come into the studio here, I pay you and stuff, but no, I got to go meet them when they're either off of college or free. And to me, it's I can't let a song sit. If I know I need saxophone, I will. If it takes a week, if it takes 2 months finding the person, or if it takes just luckily running into him and he's available, I will do whatever it takes to get that sax or get that drum track. Especially I work with lots of drummers, but depending on like I say, with each different song comes a different process, and it all depends. The electronic songs I can do by myself, but the real songs when I need horns and real drums, I have to set up some sessions with them.
Now, kind of a two-parter with this one then. It's hard in this kind of industry, anywhere where you're doing any type of entertainment, any type of media, to find somebody you gel with. You could work well with a lot of people. It's somebody you gel with, that you're on that same wavelength, like you were saying with some of the guys that you jam with.
Oh yeah.
But in that case, a two-parter. How hard is it to find somebody on that level with you, to find that creative level? And on top of that, when you can't get a hold of that person, are you the type of guy who you're going to finish this project, or do you move on to something else very fast? You have a very short attention when it comes to roadblocks and things like that.
There's a part of me that if I can't get a hold of the person, I will either in that really emergency moment, I will either get someone else, or if I just know that no one else can do it like that one saxophone player, or if there's a drummer who just plays a certain style, I will sometimes have to wait. But no, there's been a moment when one drummer of mine, I picked a drummer. I never played with him. I thought he was going to be really good. I had him learn the track and stuff, and I just got the feeling that he didn't want to work with me, or not in a bad way, but he kept putting off the session that we were going to work together. And then when he finally scheduled a session that we were all cool on, he then just came back with some excuses. So in the last moment, I said, well, it's pretty clear that he's wasting my time and he doesn't want to do this. So instantly I talked to another friend, and boom, I set it up within a day or two, and it was even better than the other drummer was going to do. So stuff like that was actually kind of cool because I had one vision of it, but just working with another musician it gives it a whole new spin. And that's also part of my music, is that it's almost like jazz, how I'll have my own parts of it, but when I work with a horn player, sometimes his version or his take on the lick, should I say, or melody, may make the song, just because it's it's based off of my music, but then he adds his own little embellishment, if I should say.
Yeah. Now, what how is that then, creatively speaking? I mean, this is your baby. This album is your baby. Are you really open to the idea of, if you respect the musician enough that, hey, I kind of like this idea, are you willing to take the criticism and the advice from other musicians or other people who have heard the album?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I actually like that a lot because I sometimes, especially if I got like a really, when I did the Circus album, I had some really far out songs, and I would come up to some of the people and go, okay, this song is a little crazy, but still bear with it. These are the chords and stuff. And there were some musicians who were not taken back in a bad way, but they were just like, oh yeah, this is kind of out of the park. And there's a part of me that's so much into jazz that I like taking stuff on the spot, because sometimes when people play and they'll do a lick, especially with horns, because horn players, they'll hit a note and do a lick sometimes that they can't do exactly the same because it was in the moment. But that's a part of my style, because I do stuff in the moment. I mean, especially with me as a lead guitarist, I sometimes will keep the track that has the talkative guitar, in which I do something that seems, whoa, I'm really, really digging into that note, purposely because there's an emotion behind it. And that's also a part of the music, is that I'm not just looking for just record it like this and we're good. No, it's like lean on the notes. Or I'll never forget that feeling when I hummed out a melody and the trumpet player played it so perfectly. It was even better than I thought. And I always get these feelings. It's like a dream come true and beyond when I'm working with these horn players, because I have it in my head. I envision those saxophones or that horn line or whatever it is I envision. And when I get someone to do it, or they do it for me without me asking, it's the greatest feeling ever. I mean, I've gotten chills and goosebumps recording with the saxophone player and whatnot, because, like I say, I know I can't do it. Even if I picked up a horn right now, it would take me years to even be able to play notes, let alone be able to just tear it up and bust out some stuff. So,
how much would you say is in this album specifically, and when you're in general making music, is improvised, where oh man, I didn't see this one coming, and boom, it sounded so well, where you just kind of go with the flow?
Basically a lot of the solos, should I say, because like I say, I'm a guy who I'm very into jazz. When people throw down, whether it's a guitar solo, a piano solo, horn solo, or vibraphone solo, whatever it be, and there's a part to just capturing those beautiful on the spot moments. But at the same time, if it's not like I envisioned it, or I'll know when I play it back, I'll go, you know what, can you do this again, because this part is, it sounds cool, but it needs to be a little better. I'll sometimes tell them that and everything, and it's, they usually just go with it, because sometimes, they have no idea how it's, going to sound. They'll play over it, and I'll tell them, oh, that's awesome, and in their eyes, they'll be like, okay, he says it's awesome, and then sometimes they'll play, and they'll think it may be, completely good, but I'll be like, you know what, do it a different way, even though it sounds great, so, I don't know. When it comes to that, I really it's a little bit of both, and having that vision, but also being open to adjustment. Like sometimes I'll even send them a demo of the song and have them work out some stuff, because a lot of the times if I just instantly, here's the song, here's the key, we'll waste time with them figuring stuff out. So now I like kind of setting the song ahead of time and having them play around with it, because at the same time I don't 100% know. I know I want a trumpet, but who knows what kind of lick we'll have to see, and depending on the other guitars or the other pianos or instruments, that'll also affect what's going to happen, because I don't just want them all playing at the same time randomly. No, that's not. I always make sure there's always a method to the madness.
Yeah. So 2013 in the spring, you start the Oriole Galaxy. First of all, the name. Where does it originate from?
Okay, 100%. It actually comes in inspiration with the two things that basically inspired electronic music, and number one, Pink Floyd.
Nice.
I was listening to Dark Side of the Moon, and I was actually eating Oreos, and this is a true story, and I just pictured this new time in which there's this future and nothing but synthesized electronic music, and I knew that before I even attempted this album, and this was not even 2013 when I came up with the idea. It was actually 2011. When I came up with this idea, I thought, you know what, I can't even touch an album like this because I need a synthesizer. And like I said, this is pre-synthesizer, so I kept that idea in the back of my head, the Oriole Galaxy, and I changed it. I didn't want to call it Oriole because of copyrights, but I really liked the look of the bird, the Oriole in it, and plus there's something cool. It could be the Eagle Galaxy, or it could be the Sparrow Galaxy, but the Oriole Galaxy is cool because when you say it, you almost instantly think Oriole, unless you see it, then you go, oh no, it's the Oriole Galaxy. But that is the point, and there's a line in the album in which I go, you can, telescope brings the Milky Way so close, you can almost take a drink with a cookie, creamy, intergalactic taste. And that's
awesome.
that is a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to the Oriole thing, but without even mentioning
homage.
Exactly.
Nice, very
exactly.
nice.
So that's where it came from, man.
All right, so 1955. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, I love it. And 1955 is actually the purpose of the story, because even though I'm talking about the future of electronic music and everything, that song is right out of the 50s, because without ruining the plot of the story, there's a main character, Shezbob Savoir-Faire, who gets freaked out and scared by the electronic music. He's staying at a hotel in the future, and he asks the bellhop guy, he says, listen, I need to go to the 40s and 50s. I need real drums, real horns. This electronic stuff is too much for me. So he sends him to the wing of the galaxy where nothing but nostalgic music rules. And 1955 is one of my favorite songs, particularly because it's inspired from the 50s. But more importantly, the whole concept of like a sitcom from the 50s, or a sitcom like Happy Days, and that's basically the gimmick behind it. So you're talking people on rollerblades with the milkshakes, and you're talking just that great 1950s just nostalgia that I just love.
It's 1955 off the Oriole Galaxy. I'm Mike Mercado here with the Hob on WSBC 1240 AM, WCFJ 1470, Chicago and Chicago Heights.
Jump and drive. Tell me this is not the picture perfect kind of thing you'd see on a vintage sign in someone's basement whose nostalgic taste would wish it was 55, with a soda fountain still in perfect use.
Jukebox plays the latest hit across the land, where the radio stars are such a sight to see. And crooners, blues, and southern soul, they burn glorious rock and roll, and the twang of guitars fill the open night. And tell me this is not the picture perfect kind of thing you'd see if you were there that time. 1955 was quite the time to be alive. Oh, I wish those happy days were here again.
$1955 off the Oriole Galaxy, and we are back with the Hav. So, what's going on, man? What's the plans for the album coming up?
Well, I plan on actually finishing the album cover up very shortly and stuff, and I'm going to have it available for anyone who, wants it. I'm actually working with a guy who's working on a website right now, and I hope to eventually get everything on my little record label I've made on there. And I'm not sure. I mean, I'm going to really try and get it on Spotify. Right now it's on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/thehav. And I also got stuff on YouTube. But basically, I would really like to try, if I can, to get it on iTunes, Spotify, or, something besides the YouTube and SoundCloud stuff that I got. But and I got my one friend, Aaron Wagner, who's actually putting together posters for me. He's got, at least 5 different ones. And I've got these ads that I drew up, because the characters in the album are just as visual as the music itself. So it's pretty cool. What I plan on doing is really just trying to get it out as much as possible.
So what's the future long term? I mean, you're kind of going at it in an interesting way. Anybody who knows the Hav behind scenes, who's known the Hav for years now, that you're a little bit ahead of the curve. You're always trying to kind of hit the next thing before the next thing is out.
Absolutely.
But this is the one question I had kind of earlier on in the show that I'm going to get to right now. Do you think electronic rock and old school music could mix? I mean, you're finding a way to do it, but do you think it's something that's really going to take off?
I actually don't. I'm not sure, because I found, especially with a lot of my friends who play different music, whether they're into old school music or not, I found that some of my old school friends were taken back by the brazenness of the electronic, but then I found that some of my friends who like electronic music weren't really getting into the grandma music per se, what they would call it, listening to the old stuff. And there are definitely people who, as soon as they hear, real guitars and real drums, they instantly put it in like, oh, this is an older category. But as soon as they hear slick, drop basses and,
right,
electronic beats, then you're talking, oh, this is like EDM or dance music. So unfortunately, I mean, as much as I really try with Oriole Galaxy, I mean, like I say, I'm just one person, but I'm not sure if they can truly mix, because I do have some songs that mix the styles. It's actually pretty cool. That's the point of the album. The whole point, by the end of the album, Shezbob, the main character, is actually doing electronic music using old instruments and techniques, and it's basically like I am Shezbob. It's like a metaphor. I am the character in the story, but at the same time I gave him a different name. It's not like it's me, but still, that was really the concept, to really just to have these two separate worlds. Here's future music and here's old, and then combine them. And by the end of the Oriole Galaxy, there is definitely songs that feature both. It's like electronic music with 1940s jazz atmosphere to it. So and yeah, it's some of it is cool, and some of it's a little far out, but still the music is just, it tells a story. Each song is radically different than the next. Like, you never hear something that, oh, this song sounds like that. No, it's a complete banquet, should you say, of music.
You can follow him at the Hav ARS record. That's THEJAVARS record. Now, Hav, you were just you were talking about it. We were even speaking about it during commercial break, how your album definitely follows the story, but it mixes a lot of different things, almost as if you're going through a life of somebody, where you're kind of hitting different stages with the oldies, the new, the mix. And during this process, when you're making this album and you're constructing these songs from nothing, how is it going into it? Like, did you really have this grand scheme that, okay, maybe, are you looking at this almost more Broadway than you are album, where this is a story that could be told in any kind of way we can?
Somewhat. I mean, with me, like, especially because I kind of came up with the idea of sound movies and stuff, and there are sound movies on this. There are actually tracks that it's like a sound. I wrote the full script. There's a girl who plays one of the main characters. I play a character. I have a friend of mine, and it's just strictly like talking, and it's a real deep story. And there may be music in the background, or the guy who plays the clerk at the desk for the bellhop. He basically, these are the main characters in the story. So you got these songs, but then you've got these breaks in the music, which are sound movies. And when you get to these, you go, wait a minute, there's actually something going on, because if you take it song by song, there's really no connection. But when you play it all together and you know the story, it's actually pretty fascinating. That it's like, wow, in this song he's getting abducted, in this song he's thrown on the spaceship, on this song he's pulling into the airport of the galaxy, on this song he's checking in, and so on and so forth. Then when he gets scared, he gets pointed to the old school, and then it turns into the 40s, and then he goes to a 1940s club in Hollywood and stuff, and he sees these jazz and swing bands, and he meets a girl that he falls in love with in the 40s, and then he goes to the 80s. So it's really cool that he kind of jumps back and forth, and like you say, it's like another person, living this crazy life, and in a real sense, it's basically like me dealing with electronic music, saying that it's cool, but it's a little too abrasive when there's no real thing. So then by the end of the album, I go back to the 40s and I meet these horn players, and then all of a sudden, this new electronic music that I end up doing, it's got horns in it, and it's got marimbas and flutes and stuff going on, and it really, really does take it out of the park. And even that concept of being in the 40s and all of a sudden injecting electronics is one of the story elements, because he's in a 1940s restaurant, on a date, and someone gives him a pepper from actually the future and stuff, and the next thing you know, in this 40s area, he starts doing electronic stuff, and he scares the 40s people. It's kind of like Back to the Future. So in 100%, Back to the Future is definitely an inspiration, because the whole fact of the 80s and the 50s and the future and going back and forth or whatnot, and it's all has to do very much with that. So
that's really cool, and it's very, I wouldn't even say it's very niche. It's just very it's a story that it's been replicated so many times where people just don't understand how to hit that kind of concept. And I think this album has done a good job of not only showcasing your talent, but really telling a story for somebody who, if they never met the Hav, if they've never seen this combination of music, I think your number one goal from what I've taken has just been, I want them to understand the story.
Absolutely.
But in speaking of that, how far can Oriole Galaxy go?
Oh, it can actually, to tell you the truth, I mean, with the way it's set up, it can go. There can be many different stories of it. I mean, the story itself can be played out a lot longer than it is, but it can go to the forever, because I mean, there's a location, the Spit and Cycle Hotel, and there's the guy Rick Denoviak, the concierge at the hotel, and he becomes basically not the main character, because Shezbob is the main character, but he becomes more or less the best friend he makes there, because he has to talk to him. Where's my room? Yada yada yada. He asked him for directions, so. It can go in a lot of places, but one of the next things that's going to happen, not soon, because one of the next things I'm trying to do is get into animation, because I've been making sound movies for the past 4 or 5 years. I've been making music for the past 7 years, give or take. But with the animation, I'm now adding that to the sound movies and creating these musical cartoons. And actually, I got my whole title. I call myself a musical cartoonist, because nice. My cartoons are musical just as much as my music is cartoonesque. And the songs I've written, especially off of A Circus Daydream, are so they're just so filled with imagination. It's unbelievable. I mean, I can talk about so many of my different songs, but basically I just got to a point where I like telling a story more than I do just playing music in the background, because you can be at a restaurant and you can be just paying attention to your food while a jazz band's lightly playing in the back, but obviously that jazz band's not going to get up there and try and play songs and tell a story, because it's really background music. So for me, I'm more or less interested in telling a story, with music, because I'm a musician at heart, but even more so, I'm an actor and a storyteller from the get-go. I mean, before I picked up music, I was very into acting and becoming characters, and Charlie Chaplin is probably one of my number one influences in life, and to this day, he still resonates with my music, because even though I'm not making silent films like he does, still I take that whole persona of the one man who's working with people to create these stories, and just like Charlie Chaplin had the Tramp, well, me, Adam Schottenecker, I've got the Hop.
Yeah, see, that's awesome. Now, let's let's take it one step further. We've heard what you said about the Oriole Galaxy. We know you're interested in. You call yourself a cartoon. What was the exact terminology?
Musical cartoonist.
Musical cartoonist. I love it. What's next? Not for the album. What's next for the Hob? What's next for Adam? What is next when the album is done? What's happening right now? 2015. What is next?
Oh, I actually plan on really launching my whole not from the website. And not just that helps all with it, but launching my musical cartoons. Basically, I just finished my first cartoon, Drive Through Melodies, on YouTube, and it was a breakthrough because it still deals with my music producing, my script writing, and working with voice actors. But now you can see my visuals and stuff. And one of the next things I want to do, I'm actually vacationing to California in the next week or so, and I'm going to be talking to some people out there. What I would like to do is get better training in animation because I'm self-taught. I would really like to get good, either meet people or get the training myself to basically make this production company. And right now I've always had ARS Records, but I'm really going for the next thing, which is Dream Tune Studios. And I know that there's a lot of people who think I'm jumping ship and abandoning music, but it's completely opposite. I'm finally finding the outlet I've always wanted for my music because my music is not like VH1 kind of music in which this is the new things all the kids like, Happy by Pharrell. This is more or less stuff, it's like real music, or it tells a story to when it's fantastic, and it's more or less you wouldn't want to see it outside of a musical or a cartoon, because with cartoons and musicals, or just musicals separately, you can get away with having these really crazy characters singing to each other, and it works, where if you were to try and hear that on the radio, you'd be like, what is this, and it goes without saying. I mean, stuff like Mary Poppins was, a big influence, and, just crazy musicals like, of course, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, just stuff like that it's so extravagant, with the stories, and whether it's, kid-oriented or whether it's adult-oriented or anything in between, anything goes. But the fact that there's music that gives it heart and structure, that's what I'm all about and stuff. So I'm just looking for the missing ingredient in my production company, and that's basically hands-on training in terms of using the new technology. And I would even like to study in on some sound engineering, because I was self-taught. All my productions is my own method that I created, and I would love to just be shown the ropes and meet some people and then be able to do it myself. But no, that's probably one of the next big things, is taking my production company to a new level, incorporating cartoons, visuals, and eventually actual filmmaking using real cameras and real people. But
that's awesome. But now, where can all our listeners, all your new fans, all the fans in general, is there any specific places that they could catch some of this work, that they could catch some of this great entertainment? Oh,
absolutely. Right now, to catch the videos, the first cartoon I did, and I actually did a demonstration video for ARS Records, go on YouTube. My channel is The Hav, ARS Records, and that's Hav as in Jav. And to listen to some of my music and at least one or two of my sound movies, you can go to www.soundcloud.com/thehav. And that's pretty much, for right now, that's pretty much what I got going. Like I said, I'm working on getting the website up, and I'm working on getting, if I can, to Spotify, because I got so many different albums that I feel like if I just had them on Spotify without having, I don't know how you got to pay for it yet, but that's basically right now where they can get it. So SoundCloud.com/thehav, and YouTube channel The Hav, ARS Records.
That's awesome, buddy. Hav, before we let you go, loading screen. Want to talk a little bit about that?
Loading screen.
We've gone through already in the show alone, in these 40 minutes that I've had these beautiful people listening, and since you graced us with with your presence down here in the studios, we've gone from memory dancing to 1955. We've gone guitar and a little bit fast beat to that Marty McFly Back to the Future feel to it, and now we're heading to loading screen. You want to talk about that?
Loading screen, actually, in the story, is when he's on the spaceship in the beginning, and he first pulls into the airport. And if you listen, you will actually hear the airport intercom. And basically, this sets up the electronic. This is the new future where there's no horns yet, and there's no of this new idea that he puts together of combining the two. This is strictly, he's in the airport, and here's this new place, new time. He knows he's going to his hotel. He knows he's going to check in, but this basically in a nutshell is the airport. But musically, it's electronic. It's I really like it because it's something kind of current. Then again, I am not completely in on the current. To me, it's current because it's got electronics, and it's programmed and synthesized, but still it's got real instruments to it. It's got real bass and real guitar, but at the same time it's more of a newer kind of song. But no, I love Loading Stream because it deals with the loading.
That's I was just listening to it a little while ago. The whole album is just so great, and I suggest anybody who's interested in good music, good storytelling, and wants to definitely see a local talent before they hit the big time, because it's only a matter of time. I think I've taken, I don't know how many friends I've polled over the last few years, and you're always one of the name that comes up of that stardom waiting to happen. YouTube.com/The Hav ARS Records. That's the JAVARS Records. SoundCloud.com/The Hav, and of course at Twitter at The Hav ARS Record. The album is the Oriole Galaxy. Hav, Adam, buddy, I thank you so much for coming down to the studios with us today. It was absolutely fantastic. I can't believe it's taking us this long, but what the project is done, before that, when you got any new things, we're going to have you down in the studio again, and we'll rock and roll, buddy.
Absolutely, man. Hey, it's been a pleasure, man. I thank you for having me on your show, man.
No, thank you, guys. That's the Hav joining us here on WSBC 1240 AM Chicago, WCFJ 1470 Chicago Heights. I'm Mike Mercado, the Hav in studio, baby. Thank you for joining us today. We will see you next week here on The Chicago Beat.